Hello, hello. It is day 3 of the 21-day journal challenge. I'm Holly with Hollie. If you hear me, thank you for coming back. Thank you for sticking with it. If it's day 3, cool. We in this together. If you're just starting today, that's cool too. You are not too late. It's never too late. You can go back and read the first and second day prompt and get caught up. It's never too late to get started. So, y'all, today's prompt for day 3, whew, what distractions are keeping you from hearing God, from listening to God, from talking to God? That's the prompt. That's the question, y'all. And I hope you've had an opportunity to really reflect on that. I do put the prompts out in the morning. I put them out on social media, on Facebook and Instagram at I am Holly Carter, but they are all on YouTube as well underneath the post section. So, y'all, I did some reflection because I really sat with that question. Just like you all, I'm going through the processing, the praying, and making sure that I'm growing and learning daily from this assignment. And what really came to light for me when really processing that question, what are those distractions in your life that have kept you from talking, listening, hearing? And this could be in the past, y'all. Maybe now that behavior has been modeled in a way where that's not your reality. That's great. But just think about that. Like, what has that been? And so that's what I did, and there's a lot of things that popped, a lot of things that came to light for me, but something in particular that I said I have to share this with you all. And what it is, trust. Trust is one of the biggest factors that keeps us from hearing and listening to God, from making time for God. And I'm going to tell you why I came to that. We live in a very microwave environment these days, right? We think there's a lot of ways to get to truth. There's a lot of ways to get to answers. There's a lot of ways to get to insight. And because our hands can so easily get a hold of information, sometimes our curiosity gets us going into places to find answers that we should be on our knees going to God about. You ready for this? AI, ChatGPT. Listen, there is a place for it. There is value in it. There is a need for it. But what happens sometimes is that people are replacing the word. They are replacing the first line of defense as to getting on their knees and talking to God with a quick microwave answer. Now, there is a time and place for it, as I shared, which would be maybe there's information that has come to you and you're trying to disseminate it, right? Whether it is you learning about a particular, um, you know, story that you have come across within the word, within the Bible. Or maybe you've heard something as you're in prayer and you're like, you know what, let me disseminate this, going to prayer about it, but let me disseminate, let me see if I can get some insight on it, or trying to interpret a dream that you had. But see, this is why it's also important that you surround yourself with trusted counsel. Okay? Trusted counsel, so that we lean not into our own understanding. The Bible tells us that we perish because of lack of understanding. So we want to make sure that in all cases that we are relying on the right sources to be able to fully, you know, take what God is trying to impart in us and act out on it. But if our first line of defense is AI, Chat GPT, my goodness, y'all, then what does that say to God? How does that show God how we are prioritizing his voice in our life, right? I'll say this. This is something that actually occurred maybe about a month and a half ago while I was on a trip to visit one of my girlfriends up in DC. We walked into a restaurant, had a nice time, kind of waiting for our table. And as we were waiting for the table, another group came and stood right next to where we were, and somehow I got pulled into their conversation. And I hope the woman is watching because I did share my YouTube channel with her. Um, but what the conversation morphed into was she has a daughter who is going to college and she is struggling to declare her major. And I'm going to tell you why. Because she said her daughter was struggling to identify from her her walk with Christ, from her reliance on God as her sole voice of counsel to how she moves in her life, how that contradicts with some of the majors that she was contemplating going into because of their reliance on AI, because of the focus on AI, so much so that she was actually perplexed at how is this going to dismantle things that I have come to know and understand based on what the word of God says, based on what God has imparted. So again, this is not a referendum on AI. Listen, as a computer science geek, listen, it is not a referendum on AI at all. There's a time and a place, there's a need, there's value. We all need to learn it, understand it, leverage it, trust. This is strictly in regard to that question. Today's prompt, day 3. What distractions are keeping us from listening, hearing, talking to God? And that's one of them, y'all. It is. Because when you think you can get the answer one way and you quickly try to do that, what happens? Think about this. What happens when you get the answer through that artificial intelligence source? And then you make a life decision based on some inputs that other people who were just as curious but clueless were putting and feeding into that algorithm, and that output is what you received. And what happens when your outcome is an outcome that doesn't yield good, favorable, fruitful results? Do you go back to ChatGPT and AI and say it didn't work out? What am I to do next? Is that what you do? Or is that when we then go to God and say, Lord, fix it? My God, my God. He's got to be the source. He's got to be the first source, y'all. He has got to be where we go first to make sure that the foundation is solid, right? That the path that we're walking on is a path that he's derived for us. Can't microwave your life. My God, y'all. That's like I said, that's what popped for me today as I was processing and praying through today's prompt. And so I'm gonna keep it brief too, because again, as I shared in yesterday's live, just this hoarseness is in and out a little bit. But I would really be curious. Oh, you guys can't hear me. I would be really curious to see if anybody has any thoughts about that. Get headphones, get at max. Oh, someone said get headphones. Okay, you're talking to the other person. Yeah, I'd be curious of any feedback, comments that you have about that, y'all. There's some really good apps that have actually been created that are artificial intelligence apps that are focused 100% on reading and studying the Bible and giving good interpretation to really help you without the noise. Um, and I haven't studied them enough to link them as trusted sources, but I know that those exist. But I'd be really curious to hear from some of you as to how often are you reaching for that when a question comes to mind or a life decision comes to mind. And it's no different from reaching from the telephone and talking to, your girlfriend or your friends, the guys or whomever that person is that you kind of go to and say, hey, this just happened. What should I do? It's no different. It is no different. That's the same as saying that's my first line of defense. That's my first source in lieu of the Father. So that's it, y'all. I just, again, I've committed every day for the first 21 days of this journal challenge, coming on live, interacting with you all, and just talking through those prompts. And again, that was just that question that came to mind for me today was, man, that trust, or should I say, that lack of trust that we're showing God that we have when we don't make him our first line of defense. What's the impact? What's the fallback? My gosh. I think about it like what is that outcome or the delayed outcome? Because if simply by making that act, we've said to the Father, let me, ChatGPT got this one. Hold on, I'll be back. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm being transparent. I'm sure we've all been guilty of picking that up and processing a question, but maybe we think about it differently. But this exercise, this prompt, this journaling today really brought that to light. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. Love you. Hope you're having a fantastic day, whatever day it is that you are watching this. And I look forward to being back on tomorrow to talk with you about day 4. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. Love you.